All right, everybody, welcome back in. It is That SEC Powers Hour. I'm Randy. That is Show. He's with us. And if you're here every week, give us a look-see. Let us know in the comments if you think we made Joe prettier this week.
Man, that's a tall task right out of the gate.
we worked on it. I tried. I say I worked on it. I tried to fix it. I want him to feel confident in the chair. I like that new shirt. That's a good looking shirt, Joe.
Well, do what I can, man. Got my new swag, my threads all in there. Of course, y'all know I'm always talking about my friends over here at Eyeballs Marketing and Media.
Other way. There it is.
I can't. There it is. There it is right there. Yeah. New swag, new threads, all that stuff. They put a logo on anything you want. And he told me when he was making this shirt, he's like, you do know that red is on red, right?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I know. Do it anyway. I like the shirt. So
right.
That was my brilliant idea.
What is it they used to say? It's you got to look good to feel good. You got to look good, feel good, play good. That's how that goes. Right. So we're in here. We're gonna give it our best. We're gonna do our best for y'all, like we do every week. We're happy y'all are here with us. As you know, we want you to be interactive. We're gonna get all over the chat. Anybody want to jump in here with us? We got friends in here with us already. Jay, huge supporter of the show. Jay's already in here with us tonight.
What's up, Jay?
And he also had another. I'm gonna put it on the screen just because I can. On my end, it doesn't look great. I'm not sure what it looks like on y'all's end, but he's using the exclusive Power G emojis because Jay is one of our wonderful members over on the YouTube channel. If you feel like doing a part of that, ask in the comments. Ask me. We'll let you know how to do that. And Don's in here with us already tonight. I appreciate that, Don.
That's right, Don. You got it, buddy. That's right.
We all need to hear a kind word every now and again. So, Joe, how's your week been?
Well, let me tell you. I mean, I know that I probably burned up the score sheet last week, and I'm just I'm on pins and I'm sitting on the pins and the needles. I am ready to go. Fired up. I feel like I did some good stuff last week. Okay. I really don't know, but we'll see in a few minutes.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm all fired up, man. I have been perusing across the state of Georgia today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal the show for just a second. I'm sure that in my 45 years of life, you've never seen me do this before. Steal the show.
No.
But I'm going to brag on the Rob, Ben, and Joe show, WRBJradio.com, of course, for just a minute.
Okay.
As y'all know, Randy is hard into some college Georgia football. I'm hard into some high school football with our syndicated radio show across the state of Georgia. And we have been given the privilege of broadcasting the Georgia Elite Classic All-Star game this year, which is up in Rome, Georgia. So we will be calling that game, and you'll be able to hear that live the 27th, 28th, and 29th of December. But the broadcast will actually be on the 29th. So I don't know the time yet, but we will be calling that. You can find it at WRBJradio.com. All of some of the greatest athletes in high school football across the state of Georgia will be there, and we will be calling that game. So excited about that. Of course, we will receive the invite to the San Antonio NBC All-American game. Playing January the first week. And then, of course, we'll be up in Gatlinburg doing our GISA duties, calling the Gatlinburg All-American Bowl up there for the GISA and all of the top athletes from across the country that play in that one as well. And that's mid-December, I believe. So a lot on tap, and even got an invite out to Texas A&M. You always hear me name drop Andrew Monaco.
Name dropper.
Texas A&M. Yeah, well, I was talking to Andrew the other day, and he's invited us out to Texas A&M for their final home game. So we might be out there the 11th of this month to hang out with Andrew and do some Texas Aggies stuff out there. So a lot going on, happy as can be, and just excited to see if I made a dent in that scoreboard here because I feel strong coming into the week.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But I want to take just a second. I didn't realize we were going to have some breaking news on here.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty cool. Especially here in Georgia. Georgia's such a hot high school recruiting bed, and obviously the University of Georgia, which is the team that I follow most closely, but every other Southeastern Conference school in the country, and teams across the country come in here and try to get those players. That's cool that you guys are going to get to go hang out and do a little bit of that. And you said it was between Christmas and New Year's, so that's great. So when we're sitting there in that week that knows no time, now we've got some cool high school football to pay attention to. So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool. I think that's
a
awesome.
lot of fun.
That is awesome. And Joe mentioned his friends here allow him to be here with us tonight. I just want to always, as I always do, remind you guys that my good friends here at Skull Shaver, check them out. They got what you need. They can keep the dome looking nice, so nice it'll blind you like Joe's does. So whatever you
Mhm.
need, it's
Got mine
gift.
polished up, baby.
It is gift giving season, and the people at Skull Shaver, they got you covered. If you're buying for a friend, a loved one, male, female, doesn't matter. Everything you need. Skull Shaver. Use promo code BEAST to get your discount at checkout. So, Joe, there was some news last week. You may not have paid attention. I got to say, if there was a horse, it would be a big horse, and I would be riding on top of it this week because my dogs mollywopped them Florida Gators, and it went like I said it would. Florida took their swings, they missed, and the dogs made them pay. So I'm feeling pretty good this week. I'm sitting in here rolling into the picks. I'm feeling pretty good about where my dogs are. But there was some more big news that happened earlier this week since the last time we were together. So, a little something called a college football playoff came out. They gave their initial rankings, and here you are. You can see them on the screen right now. Your top four: Ohio State checking in at number 1, the Dogs at 2, the Michigan cheating Wolverines at 3, and the Florida State Seminoles are sitting there at 4. And if you care, you can look at the other rankings. I put them on the screen too, right there, to kind of give you a feel for how the committee felt college football was playing out this year. So, what are your thoughts, Joe? You see the top 4. You can go as deep into the rankings as you want to. Anything jumping out at you is something that just shouldn't be the case.
Well, no, I mean, it kind of shook out exactly the way we discussed at the end of last week's show. I really thought that with a dominating performance over Florida, Georgia would have held on to the number 1 spot, but I'm not surprised to see that Ohio State is there. If there's anything that I would just point out on these rankings, it would be that 7, 8, and 9 rank there where you see Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama.
Yep.
And this ranking right here just shows me that obviously head to head doesn't matter to the committee this year as much as other things, because if you see in that 7, 8, 9 slot there's been a head to head battle that is not being represented in the win loss category as far as those rankings are concerned. So that just gave me a little telltale sign as to what was really mattering to the committee. So
Wait a minute.
they're looking at resume, not looking at head to head as much.
What do you mean head to head? I mean, Washington beat Oregon, Texas beat
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. What am I
Mm-hmm.
missing?
Well, you talk about Oklahoma and Texas and the Red River rivalry game, and
But
Alabama paying in
but
there, right?
but Oklahoma now has 2 losses. Remember, they went down to Kansas last weekend. I
Doesn't
mean,
matter to me. Head to head again. That's what we're talking about here: resume versus
okay.
head to head, and they're talking about resume. So
Okay. Yeah, and you're spot on there because that's how Ohio State wound up at 1. I mean, say what you will, a win
yeah,
over a highly ranked Notre Dame team at the time, a win over a highly ranked Penn State team at the time. And that's how they ended up where they are. Frankly, I was on record as saying, Georgia would absolutely not be the number 1 team this week. I got that spot on. Beyond that, you could kind of put them in a blender, and we all sort of knew who the other teams were going to be. I had Georgia at 3. I had Florida State at 2, and I had Washington at 4. And I was not impressed, am not impressed with Michigan's efforts so far. And it has nothing to do with the sign stealing. It's the fact that their best win was against a Rutgers team, one of only 2 teams that have a winning record this season. So I just don't think on the field, regardless of how well they've or how much they've beaten the teams they've beaten, their strength of schedule is like 111 right now out of 132. Now, in fairness, Georgia's not much better right now. Georgia's sitting at number 100. But I just thought that Washington had done enough with a nice win over a really good Oregon team that I would have put them at 4. But what do I know? I mean, at the end, this is a nice placeholder, right? Because it sort of falls in line. Because once you figure out who the top 4 are, Washington beat Oregon head to head. Texas beat Alabama head to head. Those are the remaining 1-loss teams. At the end of the day, I think Oregon is a better football team than Washington is. I think Oregon is the team that's going to end up in the Final Four out of the Pac-12. And as far as Alabama, obviously they've got a big game this weekend we're going to touch on. Texas has a big game coming up that they're going to have to get through. So it's going to sort itself out. And when you look at Georgia's schedule on the back end, look at who they have to play still, right? They may have to play an Alabama team in the SEC championship, but they absolutely have to play a number 10 Ole Miss, number 12 Missouri, a number 17 Tennessee, and oh, by the way, LSU's hanging out at 14 right there. So if they beat Alabama this weekend, then they're going to jump right up there into that one-loss team. Or no, they'll be a two-loss team, but they'll be clearly the highest-ranked two-loss team at that point. So Georgia's got their work cut out for them, and Michigan essentially has Ohio State. That's what they have in front of them. So it'll be interesting to see, what they do with Michigan. I just saw today, Joe, so a little bit of breaking news in case you guys missed it, that the coaches inside the Big Ten have now started to petition in a called meeting. They went to the head of the Big Ten and said, we are pissed off. We know they're cheating. You have to act now. You have to do something now. We will see what the Big Ten decides to do. And it's like I said on my podcast last week, who are you, Big Ten? You laud yourself as being a league based on integrity and all of that sort of stuff, all of those buzzwords right there. Yet you have a program that is foul, and are you going to act on it, or are you going to let it ride because you're sitting in the top 4 in the college football playoff? I don't know. I think there's a lot that's going to shake out here over the next couple of weeks. So anything I say there spark any new thoughts for you?
Oh, I know what I think they're going to do, but I don't know if I can get my head in this shirt or not. As if I was sticking my head
Don't
in the
mess up the new
sand,
shirt.
because
Don't mess up the new
that's
shirt.
that's what I think they're going to do. They're just going to go, I don't know what you're talking about over there. That's what I think they're going to do.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We will see. Money rules the world.
It does.
That's what they tell us. And
Root of all evil, right there.
So anyway, needless to say, if these teams were playing on if this was the matchup, right? Just take these 4. Let's say this was the Final 4. There's not a one of those 4 teams that I think Georgia doesn't beat on a neutral field tomorrow. So if that's how this goes, then I'm feeling pretty good about my dogs. I mean, out of those 4, who would you go with, Joe? If this were the Final 4, who would you go with to win the national title?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I would choose Georgia in that 4 blender there. I would love to see Georgia play Florida State. I think that'd be a great game. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome. I'd
it'd
love
be
to see that.
fun. Yeah.
Michigan and Ohio State, I really don't care. Who cares?
Well,
I don't.
obviously, one of those are going to
A
get,
lot of people do. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
I don't.
And obviously, they're going to play each other, and you would expect that they're not going to get 2 in, not if you've got an Oregon and a Texas or a Kansas State, right? Somebody like that, if they're hanging out right there, I don't think the Big Ten gets 2 teams in. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, though. But like I said, out of these 4, I'm riding with my dogs for sure. I think they win it on a neutral site. So that was the biggest news of this week. So I did want us to have an opportunity to kick it around a little bit and see what we thought about it. So we had somebody else.
The flashback I had in my head as you're moving along there, talking about watching the Ohio State Michigan football game is like watching the Super Bowl in the 90s when the Dallas Cowboys were, at the top of their game. I was like, I don't care. Because Dallas is there and they're dominating. I just didn't care to watch it. I don't care to watch the Ohio State Michigan game.
Michigan. There's a lot of intrigue right there. But I mean, I'm with you. People grow up there. Everybody's like, that's the greatest rivalry in college football. I just disagree. That's all there is to it. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying it's not great regionally speaking. Would I say it's the best? I would not. I don't believe so. I mean, I'm not going to name anything right here tonight, but I've got a couple that jump into my head that I might put in front of it as far as what I want to see. So to each their own, as far as that's concerned. I know regionally it's a big game, but there you go with that. All right. So, Joe, we kind of kicked around the news of the week, and we know where we stand on that. I don't really see a reason for us to put off any longer what it is that we are here to do. And that is to talk about the SEC games and go ahead and pick these bad boys for this week. So, fresh off of your mention of your A&M buddy there, he's invited you guys out to College Station. Man, if you make that trip, you're going to have to notice. I want you to just appreciate. You've never been out to Texas, right?
Right.
Okay. So first, just start there. Okay. So if you go and you land in Texas, I really do want you to just appreciate that what they say about Texas, how everything is bigger, that's not a lie. Like literally, everything that you see out there is going to seem larger in scale than what you are accustomed to. And so when you get to College Station, that stadium, not only does it hold like almost 100,000, that's not the impressive part. It's the way it's put together. Like it just looks gigantic. So if you make that trip, just let that kind of soak in, right? Just kind of observe and appreciate the fact that everything in fact is bigger in Texas. So this is a big game, but it's not in Texas. A&M has to travel to Mississippi to take on Ole Miss. Obviously, I'm paying attention because Ole Miss is coming to Athens here in a couple of weeks, so I'm paying attention to what they're doing. Now, here's the thing: we've talked a lot about A&M. We spent a lot of time talking about them last week, about the payouts and the buyouts and all that kind of stuff. Any way you cut it, this is not a successful season for A&M. I mean, as far as goals and what they wanted to achieve, so all that's out the window. I still think you should go play and represent your school and pride and all that, but it's not a great season for A&M. They're unranked, and they're taking on an Ole Miss team that's ranked in the top 10. Now, the thing about this week that is something that we haven't seen a lot of this year, but we saw leading up to the Alabama game, is Lane's kind of been out of pocket this week on Twitter. Like, he's kind of been like, he's letting it rip this week. And he's like, do you see that roster A&M has? I would never lose a game if I had that kind of roster. We'd be undefeated every year. Lane, being Twitter Lane, he's letting old Jimbo have it this week. And the last time he did that, his team didn't play that great. So I don't know. This is kind of the point in the season where Ole Miss just sort of falls off the table. You know what I mean? Like they lose like 4 in a row, and then they finish whatever they are. What are they now? 7-1, and then they finish like 7-5 or 8-4 or something like that. So I'm a little scared of exactly what Ole Miss, like what they're doing this week. So I don't know, Joe. Texas A&M and Ole Miss. What do you think?
Well, obviously, I was talking with my boy Andrew Monaco just recently, and
Yep.
because he asked me if I wanted to come to this game because it's closer,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Ooh, I'll go get me a." We were just talking about the tailgating out there. I
Yeah.
was like, "Hotty toddy, I might head out there. That'd be nice." But
Yeah.
unfortunately, this game is played on my beautiful bride's birthday, and there's no way I'm going to miss that. So, but I am going to go with Texas A&M in this matchup
Okay.
because I'm not going to go with old Blue Pants, and Andrew's a friend of mine. So I'm going to go with Texas A&M.
I was wondering how that was going to go.
Yeah,
You and the Blue Pants this season have had a bit of an up and down relationship, if
yeah.
nothing else. I don't know. I at this point, I think Texas A&M, in spite of what they are on defense, and as much as Max Johnson, is out there giving it his best, I just think that Ole Miss is going to have too much for them at home, in spite of the off the field stuff that I mentioned earlier. I think Ole Miss finds a way to get this win. The season of agony for the Aggies continues, and they are going to take another L right here and get one notch closer to 500. So that's going to set up that huge matchup in Athens between the hedges in a couple weeks. Where did you know, Joe, that Ole Miss is the only team that Kirby Smart has not defeated since becoming head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs inside the SEC? Did you know that fact?
And I did not know that.
That's right. The Dogs traveled out there and played an 11 a.m. game in 2016 and got absolutely blitzed by Hugh Freeze's team. They lost like 40-3 or something like that. It was
Mm.
something crazy. And so, not that they need any kind of motivation or anything like that, but this would be a get back, another one to put a little notch in the belt for Kirby, and Ole Miss rolls in and get that win over the Rebels. So, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. That's a couple weeks away. So yeah, so I am on Ole Miss with you to get the win there in Oxford, Mississippi. All right, so this next one, let's not waste our time here. UConn, a throwaway game against Tennessee. I'm sure Tennessee. You would say Tennessee's going to win this thing. We don't have to waste our time right there. So Tennessee gets the W there. I hate those games this late in the season. Can we agree on that? Right, those
Yeah,
throwaway games. Oh,
that's the point in that.
yeah, and Georgia's had them in the past too, and I just hate them. I just hate them because you get all ginned up for the momentum of the conference season. Big games, rivalry games, trophy games, all that stuff going on this week, and you just drop a directional school in there. I don't dig on that. So, and in the new format in the SEC, that might change. I assume that's going to change. You won't have that slot there late in the year to put those teams in there. All right. Back to conference play with logos that matter. I'm not sure the teams do, though. Arkansas's lost, 4 in a row here in the conference, and Florida just took a whipping at the hands of my dogs. That win over Tennessee earlier in the year is kind of looking more fluky now than any kind of representation of what Florida actually is. I love my Razorbacks and how much I despise Florida. Joe, I'm going to let you pick first. Go ahead. Who you got?
I'm going to take Florida. I took them early in the season. I'm going to take them again now because Arkansas is not good. Of course, now that I've said that, they'll run for like 300 yards and beat the brakes off Florida. So, either way, it's a win for you.
Well, I don't know. That Arkansas secondary is not it. We thought it was better. It's not better. They can't score. They just can't score offensively. I know they just fired, the offensive coordinator and all that kind of stuff, and they love Pittman. The players do. But I tell you what, they're winless in the SEC. You can't go winless in the SEC. Pittman, you can't do that.
Can't do that. Yeah.
With that said, I'm with you. I think Florida wins the game. And that kind of hurts me.
I don't know. Does Arkansas play Vanderbilt this year?
We'd have to look back. I don't know. We have to look. Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
They had a crazy schedule. It was tough. So I could be wrong. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm gonna go with Florida, much as it pains me. But that's the last chance. I think the reason I'm gonna go with Florida, that's their last shot at a win this year. They're losing every other game. The rest of the games they're losing. They're playing like LSU. They're playing, you know what I mean? They're not beating those teams. So if they want an SEC win, if they want to be bowl eligible, they have to beat Arkansas. So for no other reason, I'm going with the Gators right there to try to get the bowl eligibility. All right, Jacksonville State. Now, I started to just throw this one away and be like, yeah, whatever, South Carolina's going to win. But I'm not going to do that. And the reason I'm not going to do that is because just look at the record. Jacksonville State 7-2. South Carolina's 2-6. Now, I get it. Not the same level. Not, I get it. I know who Jacksonville State's played. I also know that South Carolina is broken in a bunch of ways, including their head coach. I don't know, man. I think I'm still going to pick South Carolina here, but what is the spread? Carolina's a 2-touchdown, 15-point favorite, so I'm going to pick South Carolina, but I didn't want to just road grade this game. I wanted to point out the fact that a 2-6 South Carolina team is favored by 15.5 over a 7-2 Jacksonville State game. And I'll tell you what, Shane Beaver, you better not lose this game. Oh my
Herb,
gosh.
what are you doing? Throw me under the bus in the chat, man. What's that all about?
Wait, let's before you answer your game pick, let's welcome in Darnell's in here with us. Welcome in, Darnell. Pleasure to have you with us, man.
Hey,
Herbert
Darnell.
Raj, the podcast in here with us. Winless in the SEC. Stop trying to be Vanderbilt. There could be
Yeah.
only one. Do not be. And I'm with Darnell. How are they so bad? I think
No.
I mean, obviously injuries have a lot to do with it, but it's more than that. I'm not quite sure because everybody wants you to think that, Beamer's on the upswing. He's a victim of his own success because I will fully grant you he overachieved in the last 2 years. He's young, that team is injured, but man alive, that's not a great that's not a great situation at South Carolina, right? He better not lose that game. He better not lose that game. All right. Herman Raj, he's like, I'm still driving home. I missed you two picking LSU. You have not missed us picking LSU. And is Joe tipsy yet? I never say he's drunk, but Joe does enjoy. We'll get there. We'll get you there, Herb. We'll get there. Just stand by, friend. Just stand by.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
and Blake just jumped in here with us. Let's throw this on the screen. What are we looking at here?
What's
I
up,
think
Blake?
Dog Nation shows up loud and proud Saturday. A lot of miscommunication will happen. It's going to be loud. The defense eats, offense fires, and the Dogs win big. Brother, I am here for it. I would love to see that. We have not gotten to that game yet. We are about there, but I would love to see it go down that way. So, in honor of Herb joining us here, Herb, check it out, buddy. I'm going to take a sip just for you. And then I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to wait a minute. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. But for now, cheers, everybody. All right. Ooh, that's my first sip of a brand new. Ooh, I'll let you know what that is in just a second. That's pretty good. It's a
I think
grown
it's
man.
better than my Diet Coke.
That's a grown man's
Right.
drink right there. That's what that is. Ooh, all right. I looked. I'll let you know it's 116 proof. How's that? Woo. Woo. We ain't messing around. All right, here we go.
Oh.
So, Joe, who you got? Are you on South Carolina or Jacksonville State? Gamecocks, either way you cut it.
Oh, I don't know. You took Carolina.
I did.
I'm going to take Jacksonville State.
Why not?
Why not?
That works for me.
Why not?
Do you remember there was a guy that when we were in high school, there was a kid that was a couple of years older than me. Great dude. He was the first person that I ever knew who was going to go be a college football player. And he went to Jacksonville State. At the time, you got to remember, this was 25 years ago. Or no, more than that. It was like 30 years ago. And so Jacksonville State then is not what Jacksonville State is now. But he went and played at Jacksonville State, got drafted, went to the NFL, played with the Cincinnati Bengals forever, showed a young dude in high school that coming from where we come from, you can make it big. And we've known several players from our high school that we played with that went on to play in the NFL. So we're pretty cool in that. I think that makes us pretty cool. They certainly were. And all those dudes were good dudes. So congrats to them for their successes. That's fantastic. In Jacksonville State, that's my Jacksonville State story right there. That's it. Okay, so you're on the Gamecocks and so am I. Ha! You don't get to say that every week. All right. My lips are tingling. That's good stuff. All right, here we go. The game of the week, as far as I'm concerned, I put in the title. This was the week for chasing crowns, right? Games for crowns this week. That's what we're looking at. Now, whoever wins this game between Missouri and Georgia is not going to lock up the East, but they pretty much have locked up the East. Like, it's going to put them out in front, right? I mean, you're going to have the inside track for sure. There's a lot to look at and break this game down. Everybody knows what Georgia is. They're starting to do what I've been saying they were going to do all year, which is grow, mature, find their footing, get healthy. And when they put it all together, they begin at the Florida week what I affectionately refer to as Kirby's death march, right? They just start hammering folks. And I don't mean like they're blowing everybody out. I just mean the way they go about their business. They grind you down and just prove to you, to them, to me, everybody, that's a team that you have to pay attention to. So that's where I think Georgia is. Missouri If you follow this show, you know I've been on Missouri all season. I've respected Missouri. I think they've had some good players. I think they've won some good games. Um, they did lose to LSU, which that game could have gone either way, but that's their only loss on the season. They beat a really good Kansas State team before Kansas State found their footing. So that Missouri squad is for real. So to think that they cannot come into Athens and win this game is just flat out wrong, in my opinion. They have three quality wide receivers, a quarterback who's been playing really well, a quality run game. The defense is not what it was last year, but it is still a quality defense. A few superstars on it, especially in the defensive backfield. And then you have Georgia, still without Bowers, but they showed us last week they can still get the job done. So it's between the hedges, Joe. They're going to kick this thing off. Is it 3:30? Yes, 3:30, which means that the fourth quarter, it's going to be dark. Fans are going to be loud. Weather's going to be great. So there's not going to be any excuses for people to not be there. And Georgia is 42-4 under Kirby Smart at home. 3 of those losses came in his first year. So Georgia has a definite home field advantage here. And Missouri, I think this might be their second road trip of the season. So for a true road trip. So for them to come in between the hedges and get it done is a heavy lift. They can do it, but it's going to be a heavy lift. Now, I like to when I have a lot to say like this, I like to present all this information to you and then let you sort of process it and give me what you think. And then I'll come back and let you know where I'm at on this game.
All right. Well, somebody actually in the chat, I was just looking through there to see if I could see who it was. But somebody kind of took what I was thinking, and that is, I think last week against Florida, you got to see Georgia come out and gel a little bit, especially that first big catch by dealt with the one hand out there
Yep.
on a little wheel route.
Yep.
And I think you just saw some fire kind of ignite in Georgia last week. I think you saw some momentum and some gelling. Missouri is a good football team, but Missouri is still Missouri. They're going to walk into Athens 3:00 on Saturday and go, wow. And I think that I think exactly what you put up on the screen a minute ago is what's going to happen. Georgia's going to come out and fire. The defense is going to be big, and the crowd is going to be loud. And you're going to see Georgia dominate this game in a way that people probably haven't seen so far this season. That's what I think you're going to see in
Awesome.
Athens after the Georgia-Florida win. That's what you're going to get.
Awesome. I agree with you there. I think you hit on a point because this is a big game because Georgia's in it. And Missouri, I'm not trying to take anything away from Missouri. They are a quality football team having a great season. But this is a stage that Georgia has gotten used to. Missouri has not. So will they be shell-shocked just by showing up? And I think back a couple years when Arkansas rolled in to play Georgia. They were like a top 10 ranked team at the time, undefeated. Georgia, that game was at noon. Georgia whipped them like 37-0, just crushed them. It was an avalanche of sound and, kind of what happened against Florida this last weekend. It was just big play, big play, big play, and it was over. And that's what Missouri has to avoid if they want to stick around in this thing a little bit. I do think that Missouri has the skill and the scheme to make a few plays here. With that said, ultimately, y'all know I'm on Georgia here. I think this game is probably, I could absolutely see it being a 7 to 10 point game. I can see it. I can make an argument for it and totally see how it would happen. That's not what I feel, though. I feel this is going to be like a 2 touchdown win for Georgia.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a 20-point ball game.
You think 20? Because I could see it could break that way. A special teams play, a turnover, something. I could see it getting higher. But I feel pretty good about it being a 2 touchdown game. So something like, 35-21 or 38-24, somewhere right in there is kind of how I see it going. Because, again, I do think that Missouri has the ability to make some plays here. Georgia's going to be tested. And it's not like Luther Burden is Missouri's only weapon. They have more than one wide receiver. The key is going to be Brady Cook. He can run. Georgia that makes him super hard to defend. You know this. You were a mobile quarterback. But the thing about him is if you get after him a little bit, he has shown to be extremely average in that
Yeah.
he's mistake prone when you get after him. Like he
And
starts to see it. And you get that and the crowd noise and just the stage and everything, he might go deer in headlights and this thing could
well,
wallop him.
he may be able to run, but you only want to run into a linebacker or a defensive end like that once or twice, or a hard charging safety.
Yeah.
You may be able to run, but he will not last if he runs, and he will not want to run. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think his coaches will tell him to get down, tell him not to do that, and I think it's going to just pin him in and take him out of his game. I don't
I
think it's
know.
going to be an advantageous thing for him in
I
this
think
game.
that I think the dogs will get after him occasionally and go a little press man. I think that's going to happen, but I do think you're going to see them in zone a lot, and then they'll get creative up front with a pressure or two. But they're going to count on some dudes to win up front too for pass rush this week. Um, but it's going to be interesting. But I feel Georgia's the better team here. Just I'm not again. Missouri's good. I just
Yeah.
think Georgia's a couple of notches better in every phase of the game. And so ultimately, I think that's how you end up where we end up. So I'm on the dogs, and you are too. All right. So quick look right here. Quick look. Let's check I love to get in the chat here and see what's going on. Love it from Missouri. If so, the team showed up for Beck. They would do that for Lovett. I think this game is personal for him, but I also know that he's the kind of guy. He said it himself. He's like, I don't care if I don't have a target. I just want to win. That's why he came to Georgia, was because he wanted to win. He's getting his touches. 2 weeks ago, he had 9. Last week, he added another 100 yards on like 8 catches, I think it was. Lovett's going to get his touches. He's going to be in the game plan. They're going to try to let him, feel good in this game. But he doesn't have to do it alone, which is the big part. And the way they've been spreading the ball around, he doesn't have to, which is great. Blake is making his call right now. Grown man football. That's what he's looking for here from the dogs. And here's Herb. He's letting us know they're not beating Georgia ever. See, you've said this to me a couple of times, Herb, about how you wish that you could be as confident as I am when I'm talking about your Alabama team. I feel you here. I don't disagree, but it's hard for me to say that. You know what I'm saying? And what's up? Granny Picks in the house. She's making picks with us too, y'all. And don't worry, when we get them wrong, she lets us know. She lets us know. And here's Herb and Raj right here. He's letting us know. I wouldn't throw Joe under the bus. I was offering him. Well, we'll get around to that in a minute. All right. Hi, Andrea. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're in here with us. I appreciate you hanging out for a minute. All right. So back to the games. I can bump my gums with the best of them, but let's figure this out.
Auburn, move on.
Yep, I'm getting here. Oh, you're done. Oh, see. All right, hold on. My blasted screen is messing with me a little bit here. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Yeah, Auburn or Vanderbilt. Here we go. You were on Auburn. Hey, Joe, did you know they rediscovered the forward pass in Auburn, Alabama last weekend?
No.
Yes, they rejoined the 21st century. They actually got over 200 yards passing last week. The Peyton Thorne kid sort of figured a couple things out. And Vanderbilt has one of the worst secondaries that we've seen in the SEC in a minute. Whee! So, I think Auburn gets well this week. They get another win over Vanderbilt. And Vandy, just, you're not making a bowl game this year. I hate it, but that's just not happening. Auburn gets the win. I'm with you there. Kentucky, Mississippi State, Joe. I think I'm just going to have to break down and admit I was completely bamboozled, just tricked by the Kentucky team. I'm just going to have to be like, listen, I want to pat Kentucky on the head and be like, good job. Get to 7-8 wins. Good job. Be happy. Awesome. I'm just going to have to give up on hopes that they're ever going to challenge at the top tier of the SEC. And that's fine. Stoops and Kentucky fans, you should still be happy with the fact that you're winning 8 games and playing a bowl game in Florida. If you pull that off, fantastic. But Mississippi State this year, not good, but they are at home. Scrappy, 4-4 overall, 1-4 inside the conference. Kentucky, just pick up your win, get back home. Don't mess around and lose this game to Mississippi State. Okay? I'm picking Kentucky. Good job, Kentucky. Good job. Basketball season's coming. All right, Joe, your turn.
Yeah, I actually am going to be on Kentucky too. I mean, and the reason why I'm picking Kentucky simply is because I like Stoops, and I think he's just pissed off enough to go out there and get those boys to get a win, and that's really all there is to it. I mean, I'm picking the win solely for the head coach here.
Okay. Well, and which Devin
Yeah,
Leary is going to show up? Last week, he couldn't miss against Tennessee,
yeah.
but when he played Georgia, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So if he shows up, it's not a close football game. If he is out there messing around like he has been most of the season, they might back up and this thing could be tight in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's just anyway, whatever. Let's not waste our time there.
Well,
Let's go ahead.
I tell you, if we're picking the next screen that I see there, where's Herb at? If we're picking the next screen, Herb, I want you to know on the next screen, I'm picking Kaylee Cuoco right there in the middle. That's what I'm taking.
Herb's driving, man. He can't see that. Hey, that's a little fun, though. It's a little fun.
Yeah.
A little fun right there. All right. So here we go. Oh, wait. I want to answer this question before we get into this game because it matters for our game. Any word on Roderick Robinson? Last week, he dressed. He was in Jacksonville. He was this close to playing. So if I had to bet, I would bet that he's available this week. I don't know what kind of qualifier I would want to give, like full go or whatever. But if he had to play last week, he could have. If he plays this week, I'm hoping it's not until like the third, fourth quarter when the Dogs have it in hand. But I think he's going to be ready to go. So that's what I know about that. Oh, again, in the chat here, my man, the ICAM man up at the 706. That's from our neck of the woods. Work does suck, brother. Hang in there. We appreciate you doing what you can to check in with us. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for being here. And here, before we move on, Blake letting us know Missouri's allowing 338 yards a game with Beck throwing for over 300 yards a game. I think we open this thing up, grind it out with a run game in the second half. So jump out early, pound on them in the second half. I'm all for it. Blake?
See, me and Blake are feeling it today. See, Blake? That's what I'm talking about, buddy. Me and you a while ago. You stole my thunder. I won't let that ride because we're on the same page today.
All right, Herb, glad to see you finally made it home. Thanks for driving safely. That's the first pick Joe and I agree on. Awesome. That's fantastic.
That's
All right. So now I'm not going to call it the game of the week. That game resides in Athens. With that said, the LSU Bengal Tigers are making the trip into Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama in what literally, I mean, I know Ole Miss still has a chance, but let's face it, whoever wins this game probably going to be in Atlanta. And if it's LSU, then Alabama's going to have two losses. They'll essentially switch places in the CFP, and we'll go from there. So everybody's Heisman winner right now seems to be Jaden Daniels at LSU. And I'm not saying anything derogatory about him. He's had a wonderful season. He seems to be more decisive, and his weapons as far as when to run and when not to run, and he's taking more chances and trusting his weapons at wide receiver this year. That's turned into a positive thing for him. The defense, not great. But maybe you could make the argument that they're improving, but they're beat up this week. They're without a starting corner. They're going to have like a freshman playing corner out there. They're without their best defensive lineman, injured. He's not going to be available. So, LSU's got some issues on the defensive side of the ball. Alabama seem to be figuring it out. That defense seems to be pretty good. Problem, the offensive line is still better at pass blocking than like 3 teams in the country, right? So they are not getting it done in the pass blocking game. Now, before I let you get after this, Joe, everybody knows the story. I spent 6 months trying to figure out who I was going to pick to win the West. At the end of the day, I flipped a coin. I picked Alabama because of this game, because it was in Tuscaloosa. That was my pick in the preseason. Alabama would win this game. Alabama would win the West and get back to Atlanta. Then they started playing football games, and I started to see some stuff. And now, sorry.
And then they played.
Yeah. They played. So now I'm not so sure. So I'm not going to give my prediction just yet. Stand by, everybody. Live happens live. We'll be right back. Hang on 1 second. I think you can still hear me. Everybody just hang on 1 second. We'll be right back with you here. I'm going to have to fix my camera. So, Joe, I'm just going to shut up. I'm going to let you talk to the people here.
Yeah,
Say whatever
well,
you
I'm
will.
just
I got to fix my
most
thing.
of you saw my lean back laugh right there. I Can Man at 7:06. He says, did we all come to the conclusion that Georgia's gonna backhand Missouri on Saturday? I love it. I love it. Anytime you can get in a backhand reference to pimp slap somebody in a game of football, I'm all about it. So yeah, we did come to that conclusion. Herb and Raj, this game breakdown makes me sad. Hang on a second, brother. Got something for you coming up. Okay. Randy's got a black screen up there. Kaylee Cuoco is still on the screen, so things aren't all bad. So, we got her to look at. I do love some Big Bang Theory. That's all I'm going to say. So, the old bat phone clicking in me right there. Yeah,
Okay,
look, I think that's funny. I Can Man. You got to backhand somebody, pimp slap somebody. You got to get that reference in a football game. Might as well be Missouri
might as
on
well
the
be. All right.
receiving end.
Hang on here 1 second. I'll wiggle this thing just a little bit, and then we'll be good to go, I think. All right, so maybe it'll hang in here with me. Live happens live. You never know. Live happens live. All right, so here we go.
Never does this when he's on our show. Favoritism there, maybe. I don't know.
All right, so I'm back. Y'all, thanks for hanging in here with me. All right, so here we go. I heard, Joe, you guys are finding something to bond over. A little Kelly Cuoco. I heard that. That's good stuff. All right, so here we go. I said all I had to say about the game. Go.
All right. Herb, my man. He made it home. Randy swishing. I'm sitting over here, Herb. Herb, do you see what color I'm wearing today, Herb? Look, man, I didn't do this by mistake, okay? Yeah, I got some sweet swag here with some WRBJ on it, but I knew this was a big day because you got LSU, you got Alabama. You got a big game, going to see who's going to win the West. I said Texas A&M. That don't matter anymore, right? So now I got to do something else. I got to do something crazy I hadn't done all year, Herb. Herb. I am going to pick LSU. Herb. Because my boy Chris Blair is the broadcast guy for LSU, and he came from Georgia Southern, and I'm a Southern boy, and I like LSU. Go Tigers.
Oh, my God.
Love you, Herb.
Name dropper. I'm tickled. All right. I thought for certain, you were about to pick Alabama.
Yeah, I know you did.
For sure. Wasn't even messing around.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. So you're picking LSU. Now, I got to ask you why. Why are you picking LSU?
There's no rhyme or reason to my logic, Randy. I think we've seen that in my record so far for the year. It truly is because Chris Blair is a buddy of mine, and he does the play-by-play for LSU. And yeah, and I thought we were actually going to get to go to this game, but things happen. So I'm going to pull for my boy Chris Blair and his Tigers. And it's just a bonus that Herb knows I'm never going to pick Alabama. So that's just a cherry on the top.
Yep.
And in other news, water is wet, the sky is blue. Yeah, that's exactly right. Love you, Herb.
See, I really I don't know. Joe's sticking to it, man. He don't get me wrong. We grew up in the SEC, so we're not big fans of Alabama. You know what I mean? But I didn't know Joe was going to stick it to the Tide every chance he got this year.
I haven't had many times. They've been a dominant program for a decade. So
that's true.
Herb, take your wins and your crowns, brother. I throw roses at you for that. But
there
now, while I got a minute, they say never kick a man when he's down. What about an elephant? An elephant, big thing. You can kick it. It doesn't matter.
Joe's winding up. He's doing the Charlie Brown run up and kick.
That's right. I'm running at it, brother.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, with all that said, LSU and Alabama.
Severely watered down. Thanks, Herb.
Oh, well, you put some water in this thing I got over here. Woo, I tell you. All right, we'll get to that in a second. All right, so here we go. LSU and Alabama. in Tuscaloosa. The over-under for this game, y'all, is 61.5. And the score last year, Herb, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like 32-31 or 33-32, something like that. So they were right on it last year. And everybody that I've heard talk about LSU this year just cannot wait to rush out here and say this offense is potentially better than the 2019 offense, which to me seems insane. Now, I haven't watched them play that much this year, to be completely honest. I haven't watched their games that closely. That seems like an insane statement to me. And Alabama can play good defense. There you go, 32-31 in overtime. Okay, so it took them a chance to get there. So it took them a while. I don't have any faith in Alabama's offensive line to protect against Harold Perkins if they decide to turn him loose and let him get going in the pass game. But I have a lot of faith in the Alabama defense to sort of put a little bit of a slowdown, a bump in the road for that LSU offense. If you turn it around, the LSU defense, I think Alabama should have some success against that unit. But again, I don't trust them in pass pro. So at the end of the day, this seems foolish. But I am going to go with Alabama, just like I did in the summer. I'm going to stay there, and I'm just going to have faith for the same. This let me down against Texas. It let me down against Texas. I don't believe that the Alabama offense now is what it was against Texas. I think they've improved. I think that's enough. They stay close. I make no predictions on whether this is going to be high scoring or low scoring or any of that. But I just, I think at the end of the day, Alabama's going to figure out a way to make this happen. With that said, history is against me. Like every time you think that Alabama's going to get it done, LSU pipes up and makes a big win and they get back. So here's a question for you, Joe. And Herb, feel free to jump in the chat here, or anybody else that has an opinion. If LSU finds a way to beat Alabama at Tuscaloosa this year, does that one of two things? Does it A, signal that a changing of the guard has occurred between those two programs and there's a new power when we look to the west of the conference? I understand divisions are going away, but when we look out west, do we see a new power? And second, if LSU wins, does that ever so slightly urge or nudge Saban to consider retirement here sooner rather than later? So, Joe, what do you think?
Well, that second question is a good question. I don't think that as long as Saban is at Alabama, that you will see anybody else be considered the number one out of what was the West or would be the West. So I don't think that changes. I agree with Herb in the chat on that one.
Okay.
But do I think Saban might look for something else to do or retire?
He's already doing a weekly hit on on ESPN every
Yeah.
Wednesday or whatever it is. So 1 foot out the door.
I think it might. I mean, I think it might. If they can't get a win in this game, I think that I think the way the landscape of college football is changing and how disappointed people like Saban are with that, because he is a historian. That's something that he really sticks to. I think that that's a disappointing thing to him. And I think if he sees that landscape changing so much and just the current situation that he's in, I think it's reason enough for him to be like, maybe this telecast job's not too bad.
Okay. I think, and this is nothing new. I have said that over the next 10 years, I think LSU is a bigger threat to what Georgia is today than what Alabama will be over the next 10 years. Do I think Saban is going to, like, if they lose this game, it's going to make him ponder retirement any sooner. I don't. I think that as long as he enjoys it, and he does, as long as his health holds, and it is, he's fine, right? He's very, very healthy for his age. I think he's going to keep trying to win. Now, if they win and Kirby beats them in Atlanta and then wins another national championship, you stack that on top of this pile, maybe we can talk about it. Because at that point, you're looking at a program that's now clearly head and shoulders out in front of everybody, including you, and does he want to invest what it would take to get that turned around and get back to the top of the mountain at his age? I don't know. But that's all down the road. All that's, conjecture. You don't know. But I think, but this game, to my question, I don't think that, they would do that. But I do think LSU is the growing threat inside the conference. I absolutely believe that. But that's, So I Can't Man here's jumping in, letting us know he's not sure where to put Alabama. And it is weird because last year it wasn't so much their record or that they lost games or anything like that. I knew they were talented. It was the discipline of the program. It was stuff like that that really made me question them. And then this year that seems to be better. So, I'm not sure what to do with that. And LSU and Alabama are behind Texas, Oklahoma, and Georgia. Really? Now, see, I would not have put Texas or Oklahoma in that
I wouldn't have
discussion.
either.
I think they're going to be fine inside the conference. I'm not taking anything away from them. I think the potential for greater success between those two probably lies in Texas, just simply because of the funds and the way they can raise money, and Joe buying, what is it, Tito's or whatever it is, and putting money in their NIL coffer. But, I think ultimately it's still LSU, Alabama, and Auburn. If Hugh Freeze wins another game or two this year, shows, that it's coming together, he finds himself a quarterback. Now, I understand everything about Hugh Freeze. I get it. But that is a program that could jump up in a hurry and bite some folks. So, there you go. Oh, wait a minute. I love it when people tell me I'm right. It's very weird. Randy's 100% right. Discipline's crazy. We aren't developing people the way we used to. I got into a discussion this week with my good buddy Matt Zimick. He currently he for 25 years he's covered college football at the national level. He currently writes for Trojan Wire, and he covers the USC program and what's going on out there. And the big discussion in that program is, what is Lincoln Riley going to do, to get things fixed? And Matt is firmly in the camp that they have to get stronger, bigger, tougher, right? And he puts that on strength and conditioning, one of a couple things. And I got looped into this conversation, and I pointed out that was one of the biggest differences for Georgia. They had to get the right kind of body, and then they had to develop that body, which is what Scott Cochran did at Alabama for years. And then Kirby took Scott away from Nick. And that's when it started to change. And because
Hey,
that happened.
You want to hear
Sorry?
something funny? I hate to interrupt your story,
Yeah.
but that strength conditioning coach you're talking about there? Yeah, I was talking to his brother-in-law today in Johnson County, head coach of the Johnson County Trojans here, Don Norton. It's his brother-in-law.
To Scott Cochran.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Small world.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Wow!
I will file that one away right there. We
Yeah.
might come back to that, because I also mentioned that currently Scott is the special teams coordinator at Georgia, and Scott Sinclair is now the strength and conditioning coach. But it absolutely matters. And that was a bigger loss for Alabama than I think people outside the conference may have given credit to, because they changed everything in Athens, the way they do it, what it means to do it, all of that. So, all right, we are talking a lot, and we've still got games to pick. Don't worry, we won't keep you guys here too long. If y'all got to go, we understand, but we are having a good time. And I actually enjoy talking a little football, and I think you guys do too. So I think we're doing okay. So that was the SEC pick'em. So we got through all that. So this is where I bust out my official paper, give Joe the news of the week to let him know how he's doing chasing the lead dog in our season-long competition here in our pick'em. So last week, we didn't pick that many games. It was a light week inside the conference. Joe went 5-2. Very respectable. Very respectable. That's a good week. Randy went 6-1. So I picked up yet another game. And so that brings the season totals to 74-24 for your runaway leader and 61-37 for the Joe Show. So that's where we stand right now. So a 13-game lead. You still got a month. And if we do the bowl games, you could make up a lot of room in the bowl games. But
just finding my stride. That's all. Just finding my stride.
Just working out the
kinks. Got off the old blue pants.
Yep.
Kentucky's a no non-starter. I don't have to worry about that anymore. We don't have to worry about Alabama anymore. So I'm good.
So every week, I shoot Joe a text and let him know which games out of conference we're going to pick. And we've got some fun ones to pick this week. So first, I'm going to start with the one that most of you may care the least about. Okay. So let's start with Kansas and Iowa State. Now, Kansas just knocked off the Oklahoma Sooners last week, got a big win, got back in the top 25. They did that without their number one quarterback. So that was a big win for Kansas at home. They stormed the field. Meanwhile, Iowa State, the Cyclones are hanging out. Nobody's paying attention to old Iowa State. 5-3, but they've only got one loss in the Big 12. We talk about Texas. We talk about Oklahoma. I talk about Kansas State. Nobody's talking about Iowa State. 4-1 in the Big 12. Kansas already has 2 conference losses. So, Joe, I thought this would be an interesting one to pick. What do you think?
Man, I'm all over this like a chicken on a pile of bird feed. I don't know.
Say June bug.
Kind of stretch for analogies tonight. But I am all about some Cyclones. Iowa State. You know why? Because Kansas got a big week last week. Yep. And they're going to walk in talking about, we beat Oklahoma. Yep. And the Cyclones are going to go, where's my boy in the chat? They're going to get pimp slapped right there because they walked in and because it's Kansas. And that's what they do.
So, I see this as a problem. I see this as a problem for Kansas because congratulations on the win. And even if you get your starting quarterback back, I don't know that you're the kind of program right now that can be level-headed and handle success. I'm on the Cyclones too. Not making up any room here because I'm picking the Cyclones to win this one right along with Joe. And let's work. I think we can work backwards here. Let's see. Am I going the right way? Well, I'll find it. Don't worry. Hang in here with me. Yep, I'm going the wrong way. So this next game it kind of makes me sad that we're picking it. And I can't even tell you why, because I'm the one that chose what we were going to pick. Well, now I don't even see it. Hold on. I'm going too fast.
He's zipping right through there.
All right, so here we go.
There it is.
No, that's not it. That's not it. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. There it is. All right, let's look out west. Washington and USC.
Oh.
This game makes me sad. It makes me sad because we have to talk about USC, and I don't like doing that. But they're back at number 20. They beat a Cal team because Cal went for 2 to win the game at the end. They beat Cal 50-49. They gave up 49 points to California. Oh, my gosh. And I'll tell you what, that defense is atrocious. Downright atrocious. And Washington, earlier in the season, you looked at this game, you're like, Washington's going to beat them by 24, right? Because nobody could seemingly stop Washington. And what has Washington done the last 2 weeks? All they have done is show up and underperform and look ugly doing it. So, is that a blip for what Washington is? Or is that who they actually are? Well, this week, they're in the top 5, but they're on the road. Joe, what do you got?
Well, I'm gonna have to drop a little knowledge on y'all here on this game. Herb, hope you're listening. Where's my boy Clay at? Chris Hayes. I like him in the chat there too. Y'all don't know this because I told you I was a baseball guy, right?
You
Back in my
mentioned it
younger
once or
days, they
twice.
called me out to the West Coast to play football. Y'all probably don't know this story. Yeah, out there on the West Coast, Sunshine State.
No, that's
Had the
Florida.
opportunity to go out there and play ball. You didn't know it.
It's the Golden State.
The Golden State. That's
Yeah,
right.
the Golden
Whatever.
State. Whatever.
Yeah. I had my one football scholarship offer to go play college football in the state of California
Mhm.
with those Occidental college 4-year private liberal arts school.
Yeah,
Yep,
Occidental. Yep,
that's where I had the chance to go.
yep.
I didn't even go. I didn't even check it out. I was like, nah, that's not for me. So I feel the same way about this USC. Nah, you're not
not
for me.
not for you.
I'm going to take Washington because they're playing in South Carolina in Southern California, and it's going to be warmer, and Washington will play well.
Okay,
That's fine. Yeah.
so this makes this. I can't believe I'm about to say what I'm about to say. This makes no sense at all. But I think that Washington on the road will not be the same kind of Washington team that was lighting up the scoreboard, at home. And what we've seen the last couple of weeks from Penix, I've actually watched those games. He's just been turnover prone. It just hasn't looked good, and you want to believe what you saw the first half of the year where he looked out so great, but then he just really was bad against these other teams that you thought they were going to handle. So USC, they can't stop a runny nose. That it's just, so Washington's probably going to get well. Penix is probably going to throw for 400 yards in this game. Okay. But I think them being on the road, I think USC might outscore them. This thing could be 57-50 or 57-55 or something like that. I have no reason to pick USC. This is more of me picking against Washington. They have not looked great, and I think going on the road is not going to be their friend. So bet the over. What is this? Oh, okay. Over under on this game, 76.5. So they expect it to ring it up a little bit. Okay. But I'm going to pick Southern Cal. Lord help me. I'm a defensive guy and I'm doing it anyway. But Southern Cal, there you go. You got the Huskies. I'm on the Trojans. So that is what it is. Now let's get to the ones that I really, really did want to talk about, because these games get me kind of fired up. Like, I'm pretty doggone excited about these games. Let's start right here. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Do you know what they call this game, Joe?
No.
Bedlam.
Bedlam. Oh, I knew that.
Yeah. Forever, this game was a fun game. And every time I looked up, the team I thought was going to win didn't. Forever. It just seemed that's how it was going to go. This year, Oklahoma's coming to the SEC next year along with Texas. This is the last run. And Oklahoma State got so pissed off about it, they said, well, we're just never going to play you anymore. And they can't wait for Oklahoma to get out of there. But this will be the last Bedlam for the foreseeable future. I think it's going to be a wild one. I think we've seen Oklahoma be up and down. But I'll tell you who hasn't been lately, Oklahoma State. They've been on fire. I'm on the Cowboys to kick Oklahoma in the tail as they send them out of the Big 12 in the last Bedlam. Oklahoma State at home gets the win.
And I absolutely agree with that as well. I was going to say I'm a Cowboy all day long right here. You can hammer it. That is going to be Oklahoma State with the dub and be like giving you one of these out the door. There you go.
Enjoy that tail kicking you're going to get for the next few years
right.
in the SEC. That's right. Okay. I thought we might go back and forth on that one a little bit, but you with me? Oklahoma State. There it is. That's what's up.
Solid on that one, man.
All right, here we go. Let's get to the big one. The one I think is the big one, because everything's bigger in Texas. We had this discussion already. But before we do that, Everybody think about this. I promised you earlier I would tell you what I was sipping on. And it's good, y'all. It's good. There is no paid promotion here. Nobody's sponsoring this show. I'm just sharing with you because I love you. This, that fantastic bourbon is, in fact, I'll show you the bottle. Fiddler, Georgia Hardwood Edition. Come on, Lens, help me out here. Let me get my face out of the way. There it is.
There you go.
Fiddler, Georgia Hardwood. Heartwood. It is Heartwood. I got it right the first time. This stuff is made using just what it says. Oak, grown here in Georgia, aged here in Georgia. This is distilled here in Georgia. And it is a quality bottle. So if you haven't had it, I highly recommend Fiddler, Georgia Heartwood from the ASW Distillery here in Georgia. Cheers, everybody. Now you know what I'm sipping on. Good stuff. Good stuff.
It looks good in the glass.
That is the same distillery that does the Hunker Down vodka that we were talking about last week. So the Hunker Down bottle, every bottle that you buy goes into the Classic City Collective to support my Georgia Bulldogs in the NIL efforts. But it's the same distillery. So there are 6 people who own the distillery. 5 of them are UGA alumni. They're all Bulldogs. So I don't mind supporting a Georgia business, especially when they're a bunch of dogs. You know what I mean?
Makes you wonder where the 6th guy's from, right? Or the other guy.
I don't know the answer to that.
He's probably a tech guy.
Just yet. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that just yet. So, so Fiddler or ASW, we like your product. If you like us, let us know. So there we go. All right. So moving on to the game that honestly, outside of the SEC games, this is the game that I'm actually most interested in across the country this week. It is Kansas State and Texas. I mentioned earlier, Kansas State came in and lost a tough one at the end against Missouri. They didn't even have their feet under them right there. But now they are finding their way. This Kansas State team is a problem. They are a problem. They are hard-nosed, always the underdog. They don't mind winning ugly, and they will fight. This Kansas State team is going into Austin to take on Texas without their starting quarterback. I don't know 2 things. Show me, Texas. Show me you're tough. Show me you can get in there and fight it out for 4 quarters when you're down, right? You don't have your number one gun. Show me you can do it because Kansas State is coming. Joe, who you got?
Well, just as I said a while ago for the Cowboys and OSU, that they are the confident pick of the week. I feel like you could hammer that one absolutely all day long. They say the spread here is 4. Texas is the favorite.
Yep.
I think that is horse hockey. I think that Kansas State is going to punch Texas in the face, and I think Texas is going to turn them horns upside down. And I'm just waiting to see Matthew McConaughey over the sideline with his damn cowboy hat, looking in dismay as the purple cats kick some kitty litter on Texas to make them look soft.
Oh my goodness gracious. It's not, again, I'm not knocking Texas. I have a feeling it's a matchup game. They're catching them at the right time. I am on Kansas State as well. I still think that like the question was who's better, Texas or Oklahoma? I think Texas was the better team, even though they lost that game. But here, I'm on Kansas State. I just believe in who they are. I could be dead wrong, but that's just how I feel about it. Looks like there's some stuff happening here in the chat, Joe, that I want to recognize. Herb's letting us know it took you long enough. I wondered what you were drinking. There you go. Fiddler, Georgia Heartwood. So we covered that base. We got that taken care of. And here, check it out. Supporter of the show, great supporter of the show. Jay is back with us from 11 days on the road. Sounds like a West Coast road trip right there for one of those MLB teams. Welcome home, Jay. That's fantastic. Glad you made it safely. Traveling like that, always, always takes it out of me. I don't know how you feel. Chris, Texas will struggle with quarterback play. They'll win in a close one, but they'll be on upset alert the whole time. All right, I'm with you there.
All right.
Again, this is more. What do they say? How does it go? This is more art than science. This pick is more art than science. I just have a feel about Kansas State that Texas should win the game. They're at home. They're the better team. They've got everything in front of them, but so does Kansas State. Kansas State wins this game. Now Oklahoma State wins this game. Now they are on track to play for the Big 12 title and just shut out the two teams that are getting out of there. So it's just a little intrigue, a little added extra something to the program right there, All right, Joe, we've kept the people here long enough already. Jump into the two shot right here. Let's let everybody know who you are. There you are. There's Joe Show right there. So another good week. I had a good time. Yeah, you feeling good?
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to see all of my folks in the chat. I always enjoy hanging out with my folks in the chat. It's always good. Herb,
That's
I'm
right.
glad to keep the streak alive, brother. Picking against you always makes me happy. But I know you'll be back. It's all good. And my boy, who was it? Was it Chris, I think, that
Yeah.
stole my thunder there in the chat. Appreciate that, buddy. And thanks for being here. But no, I love it being here. Love being here with you guys. A lot of fun. It's always nice to shoot them up with you, Randy. It's good stuff. And I just want to remind everybody, this is unscripted, uncalled for, and requested. But I'm just going to tell you anyway. I do enjoy a sip of bourbon or something when we're on this drink, but I want you to know that I am washed in the blood of Jesus Christ, and I enjoy that. So I appreciate you being here with me. And we do whatever we can do to have fun and be together as family. So enjoy you being in the chat, and thanks for hosting the tail whooping that I seem to be receiving this year. But that's all right, because I got my boys a trophy smack. I'm going to make up an award and get it myself. Here we go.
You can put anything on that you want to. That's the good thing
That's
about
right.
making your own trophy. You're like,
That's right.
I win for the way I pour my coffee. You know what I mean? That's how that goes. That's how that goes. All right, everybody. Thanks once again. Thanks for hanging out with us. We did a little overtime this week. So appreciate you hanging in here with us. We did pick some good games. I think it's going to be a good weekend of college football. Life goes on. We all have things we have to deal with. As I say every week, thank you so very much for spending a little bit of your very precious time with us. It really does mean everything. We do have a great time. And what I want you to do is enjoy this college football weekend. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends. Make every day count, because why else are we here, right? Make somebody smile if you can. Until next time, go Dogs. We'll see you on the other side.